Hi, I have got a problem with my air suspension. I got a pressure alarm from my compressor the other day, and tester showed there was only 14 bar, and the compressor was running every 4 minutes, and 3 weeks later it could only manage 7 bar. So we had to do something. So therefore the compressor and the valve block had to get off the car. And I start making some pressure testing equipment from some parts I had in the scrap bin, and it's just a piece of it's just some pneumatic plastic pipe and a valve and a pressure gauge and some fittings to put into the valve block. It should have been something with an O-ring, but I don't have anything with the O-ring, so it have to be put together with this Teflon tape. But it's okay, it's working. Tight it nicely, put on the pressure, test it with some soapy water, see if it's leaking, close the valve and leave it there for a while and see how good it is to keep the pressure. I think I left it there for half an hour. Of course you can leave it as long as you want, and in this case there the pressure was okay, and then you just have to do all of them and then go and do the rest of the car. Then I shout to the car and put on my fine testing equipment to the car, put on the pressure, leave it, test it with soapy water and see if can keep the pressure up. And in this case there was no problem, all of them was okay. So we go in and look at the compressor. So we just take the compressor apart and see what's going on inside. It's quite easy to take it apart. Off with the piston ring. It seems that the flap valve is a little bit open. I don't like that, but the piston ring is definitely worn out a lot, so it's a little bit strange because it's only 2 years old. The cylinder wall is definitely worn out in the top. It have a very big groove and you can very easily feel it with the fingers. So I think we have found the problem here. Worn out piston ring and cylinder walls. I take the rest of the system apart because I think it's a good idea to check everything. It's 12 years old, so maybe it's nice to check all the things. Off with the cylinder. There are some springs in there, looks very rusty. Into the non-return valve, some small parts in there, but they all look very okay. Off with the tire inflated pipe. Off with the temperature gauge or temperature sensor. It was a little bit difficult to get out, but it had to get out. I would like to have a small look at the drain valves, which actually is have three purposes. It's draining the system, it's a minimum pressure holding valve, and it's also a maximum pressure relief valve. Here we're looking at the solenoid, and actually it looks quite nice except from some small rusty areas, but not in a very important places. So it looks very good. In some way I should actually also take off the minimum maximum pressure valve, but to be honest I don't dare to take it off because it seems to be a little bit difficult to handle, so I don't dare to take the chance to break it, so we just leave it. I will pressure test it a little bit later and see if it's working. Take off the plate into the crankcase because I want to replace the piston also. Even that I don't really think it have a big problem. Maybe the flap valve was a little bit bad, but I have the piston, so we just change it. This spring looks a little bit rusty. To be honest, it's almost half rusted through, so I think you need to have a bath in some acids so we can get the rust off and see how bad it is. Give it a little bit shake so the acid is coming everywhere, and give it a shake from time to time. After some few minutes in there, half an hour or something like that, then we clean it in water, and it looks very nice now. No rust anymore. And give it some spray paint, then it will last for the next 12 years. We hope so. I want to give the dryer a check out also, and I think it was a good idea to put the silica gel or cat gravel or whatever it is into the oven and dry it out a little bit. So out it has to come. It seems that there is not really any problem in there. Just put it in a tray and put it into the oven. I don't know what temperature I need to have, but I gave it around 100 degrees for a couple of hours, and after that put it into a plastic bag so it's not getting humid again. Then it's ready for putting back into the dryer again. Then it's just to give the rest of the part a small cleaning so they can be ready to be put in again. And then on to the new cylinder. Unfortunately, the new cylinder don't have a hole and the threads for the tire inflating system, so therefore you need to drill a hole and put in some threads like in the old system there. But it's good it was already prepared for it. Drilling a hole and put in the threads, quite easy to do. It's a 7mm. Easy job. Ready for sampling. Give it a shot of paint so it can be nice and protected against the rust. Back to the dryer. Want to put it back together, put in all the cat gravel, and quite easy job also. They just have a tendency to jumping around all over, so be a little bit careful that everything is not going to the floor. And then the drain valve solenoid. I painted a little bit, those places it was a little bit rusty. Give all the rubber things some silicone. and just put it back again. So we are coming to the cylinder head again, putting back the non-return valve, give it the rubber some silicone so it be nice soft again. Put it in, remember the spring. So on with the cylinder head. I always give all the screws and everything a lot of grease, so it's easy to take apart again, even that I expect this one will run the next 12 years again. But I'm in the rusty area, and grease is good. The more the better. In with the temperature sensor, screw it tight, copper grease I like to use where it become hot, else I normally just use normal grease at the other bolt and nuts. On with the tire inflating system. And then onto the piston, and this bolt here has opposite threads, so you have to turn it opposite like all normal bolts. Out with the old one, in with the new one. Very easy. On with the piston ring. Remember to locate it so the small pin in the piston fit into the groove on the ring. Another O-ring. On with it, and then put the cylinder back, and then we are soon ready for running again. More grease. It makes the screw and me happy, especially some years later when I have to take the things apart again. Unfortunately, screws have a tendency to have to get out at a certain point again. And we close back the crankcase again. It's done with pop rivets. Luckily I had some that fit quite nicely into it. They are quite long. So we are ready for a small test. Put on some power to it, start it up, give it some soapy water and see if it's leaking here and there and everywhere. In this case it seems to be quite nicely and no leaking anywhere. And then it's just to get it back on the car, and then remember to check all the connections you are doing in there also with soapy water, and then ready to go. After a nice test drive, it seems that it can very easily keep 16 bar, and it's only running one time a day, and that's when I start up the car in the morning. It's never ever going on an extra time during the day. So everything is good.